Welcome to MarcusG.tv. I'm Chef Marcus Guiliano. I'm a chef on a mission. Today's mission is Lyme disease. I have a video on Lyme disease on my YouTube outlining our fight, our struggle when our daughter was 6 years old. She's now 16. So I'll get a lot of views on that and a lot of comments. A lot of people want to know because Lyme disease here in the Northeast and in America is a serious issue. A lot of people are baffled by this, and it's very frustrating and can make some people very, very sick. And my daughter was at a point where she was almost wheelchair bound. She had to have a wheelchair at certain points because her knees would swell up, and it was pretty terrifying for us. So let me read this email and then I will talk about my daughter and what we did exactly. I saw your YouTube video on Lyme's and would like to know more about how she overcame it, she being my daughter. What antibiotic did she have? How long did you do? And did you do anything else? Thank you for your info. This is so scary as I have a terrible insurance and no money. I've been researching this and it's terrifying and almost seems hopeless. You have given me light in a dark tunnel, and I'm certainly not alone. Thank you for any info you can give. God bless. Her name is Susan. So here's the story on all this, the Lyme disease with my daughter. First of all, my kids are very healthy eaters. They've been healthy ever since they were born. I mean, we've been on focus with nutrition, and the reason was before that I wasn't. But I figured, okay, I'm bringing kids into the world now. Now, not only have I screwed myself up, but I'm responsible for other people. And this is what I was thinking. I'm responsible for my own kids. And it's one thing to screw myself up and know that I'm doing a detriment to my health. But now with my kids, I can't do that. So I became really a dedicated, devoted parent, father, to saying, how can I feed my kids the best? What are the best medications? Are medications even good to begin with? So I did a ton of research and read a ton of books and really transformed myself into the way we are now, my family. So I have a 16-year-old daughter, Courtney. She was 6 years old when she came out with Lyme disease. I have a 14-year-old son. He's never had Lyme disease. The unique thing about both of my kids combined, one round of antibiotics. That was for Courtney's Lyme disease. My kids have never, ever had ear infections. Never, ever. They've never been to the doctor for a sick visit. They do get sick. They do get the sniffles. They do get the cold. But they don't have no idea what it's like to be stuck in bed with pneumonia, with strep throat. My kids have no idea what that's like because I feed them healthy. I feed them very healthy, and I've been very, very diligent since they were born on focusing on this. And of course, I eat that way myself. I don't waver. So when we go out to restaurants, I don't throw my hands in there and say, "Okay, kids, go ahead and have cheese fries and this and that, and the fried fish and chips." I don't do that. We analyze the menu. We pick a restaurant that can best suit us, and we eat the most healthiest things we can find in that restaurant. And if we have to make sort of a big deal to get better healthy food, we do. If we have to go out of the way to a different restaurant, then we do. Okay, I know a lot of parents who just say, well, it's hard to do, and what do you expect me to do? Go out of my way? Well, yes, you have to go out of your way to feed your kids healthy. At home, it's always been the same way. We own a restaurant. It's always been the same way. You want something, this is what you can have. This is what's on the menu. This is what we eat as a family. And the most important thing was that we never wavered. So it wasn't like, oh, we're busy tonight, let's just go grab a pizza because you have a baseball game, you have a soccer game, you have this, you have that, you're horseback riding, whatever it is. Let's just grab a pizza and eat on the go. It's never, ever, ever, ever been like that. So my kids know that, hey, you plan ahead, you bring food with you, you bring a healthy snack, you make food ahead of time. That's what my kids know. So my kids don't just go anywhere and just eat junk and crap. Okay? We primarily avoid dairy. Sometimes I did raise my kids on a little bit of goat cheese. Sometimes if they want cheese, we'll give them some raw, local, organic, grass-fed cheese. I'm not an advocate of that, but that was sort of like the one thing we did kind of waver on. They've never had a glass of milk. They've never had steak. They've never had chicken. They do very, very, very certain and select fish. My son is much, much, much more vegan than my daughter. My daughter likes salmon. My son is like, give me the tofu, give me the beans, and my daughter eats that as well. But my son is more like, oh, just give me tofu. Give me a pound of roasted tofu, blackened tofu or something for lunch, and I'm totally fine with that, Dad. So my kids eat healthy, major dedication, eating them healthy. No, only one round of antibiotics. No sick visits to the doctor because they're not sick like that to go to the doctor. My son has been there to the hospital for x-rays because we think he's broken something or strained something or fractured something, and he did fracture his hand a couple years ago, which healed. The doctor said, 6 weeks, this and that. He went back after 3 weeks, and the doctor was like, I cannot believe that you're healed. He goes, this is amazing. I cannot believe it. You don't need the cast anymore, this and that. And he was back on track in baseball season in less time. The doctor was totally amazed. Of course, the doctor didn't really want to know what we do in our lifestyle, but that's a whole other thing. The doctors really never want to know what you do, because what you're doing in a healthy version is keeping them out of their office and they're not making money. So, Lyme disease, Susan. We went to Dr. Schachter. Dr. Schachter, Michael Schachter, is in Suffern, New York. He was the president of the Drugless Practitioners Society. So we went through all these alternative things. We went through Qigong, we went through kinesiology, we went through acupuncture, we went through chiropractic, we went through a bunch of different therapies with my daughter. There was points in my daughter's knees were so swollen that she couldn't walk and she had to be in a wheelchair. And it was very frustrating because Lyme, and we noticed this, because we would do all these therapies and it would go away. And we're like, wow, we kicked Lyme, we kicked it. And we really didn't test for it the first couple months because she was sick. First of all, she had a massive high fever, like 104 degrees after a local community race run like the wind in Ellenville, which my wife and I are now the directors of that race as of 2 years ago. But we would run that race for years. So she ran it when she was 6. See, healthy kids, very active. She ran it when she was 6. And all of a sudden, after the race, she came down with this massive fever. And it was a little rainy out. So we're like, maybe it was a little rainy, her immune system, whatever. Massive fever. She couldn't move. It was like, whoa. A friend came in that was here at the restaurant that night and did some work on her. And she perked right up and felt much better. But we knew something was off. So we did some therapies. We took her to people that we know, we trust, some alternative practitioners to do all this qigong and everything. So she would snap right out of it. We started with lots of vitamin therapy. We got her tested, blood, to see what she was deficient on, and really went in there and she was deficient on calcium. She was deficient on 1 or 2 things. I'm not sure if it was calcium or whatever, but it was deficient on 1 or 2 things. And we went in there and bumped that up, and she was fine. She was like, wow, totally different child. Amazing again. Then we noticed a month later a relapse. We weren't sure what it was at the time, and again took her to do the therapies. Totally fine, perfect. Then all of a sudden, a month later, another relapse. And after 3 months of this, we're like, okay, something's up here. Let's take her to get more tests. That's when we took her to get Lyme tests, and that's when all of a sudden it was off the charts and this and that. We're like, okay, now we know what we're dealing with. We're dealing with Lyme disease. So we tried another month or so of alternative therapies. The school system, however, made us take her to the local disease specialist, whatever his name was, here in Kingston, New York. Made us. They go, if you do not take her to this doctor, we're going to call social services on you. They flat out called us in the office and said, you're bad parents, is basically what they said. And if you don't take her to the doctor that we tell you, we're reporting you to social services. So we took her to this doctor in Kingston. We're supposedly this disease specialist. He goes, she has Lyme. She needs 14 days of antibiotics. And I proceeded to get into an argument with him because I ask a lot of questions when I go to the doctor, and some doctors don't like that. They don't like when their authority gets questioned. So I questioned him up and down and this and that, and he didn't like it. And I was like, can you at least prescribe a pure compound antibiotic? He goes, what do you mean? I was like, I don't want any coloring in them. That stuff doesn't make a difference. She needs antibiotics. Just take the antibiotics that I'm giving you. This is what she needs. And he was like, if you're not going to listen to me, you shouldn't even be here. I said, the only reason I'm here is because the school made me come to you. And he wanted to tap her knees because her knees were, at that time her knees were swollen up again. He goes, her knees need to be tapped. You have to stay here. I'm like, I'm not keeping her here to have her knees tapped. At this point, it was at that time of the month where it was hard for her to walk, and she couldn't walk. She can't walk and this and that. And I'm like, I've got it under control. So we left the office. not under his direction, but we left the office, went literally 3 blocks away to a friend who does Qigong, naturopath, Carol Kessler. She had the Qigong on her, and within 15 minutes, her knees were totally drained, non-invasively, and she was up and walking around and fine. But here's the doctor who said, we have to tap her knees, we have to get that out of there, this and that, and you have to do this, and was really playing hardball with me. But you got to play hardball back with the doctor. You have to know your options. You have to ask questions, and you have to be willing to say, I'm not going to do what you're telling me right now because I think there's a different answer, and I need a day or so to think about it, or 2 days to think about it. Instead of doing, because what doctors do is they're taught, the medical system is taught to scare you right then and there, where you should not leave their office, you should not leave the hospital without getting transferred, without getting more tests, without getting this therapy. That's the way the medical system works, people, is they have you there, you're in fear, you're sick, and you basically will do whatever they're telling you. I took my mom out of the hospital when they told her she had a heart attack. She didn't have a heart attack. They scared her so much. They had her there for 6 hours. They gave her no water, no liquid. I'm like, this is crazy. Her blood pressure's high. I'm like, just give her some water. You guys haven't even given her anything. They gave her like cranberry juice with high fructose corn syrup in it. Like, this isn't a beverage. This isn't hydrating. So after I took her out of the hospital and she got the tests and everything done on her time, she was totally fine. I don't recommend that everybody do what I do. You have to understand, you have to be sort of somewhat confident of your health or your loved one's health. Okay, now I always consult other healthcare professionals. So when I was in the hospital with my mom, I was on the phone with other people that in my belief, were very qualified to diagnose her or to treat her or to be in her care. And I got on the phone with them, and they said, Marcus, well, if this isn't raised, then you're okay. If this isn't raised, look at her tests, this and that. And the stuff wasn't, and he would decipher to me what certain things were on her tests. So it wasn't me doing it by myself. I was still consulting a healthcare practitioner, a qualified healthcare practitioner. Same thing with my daughter's Lyme. Just because I wasn't listening to that doctor, I was listening to other naturopaths. I was listening to other ones. So he wanted 14 days of antibiotics. I said no, we left. But I knew that the therapies that we were doing, the alternative therapies, were helping to a certain extent, but not getting rid of it totally. So we went to Dr. Schachter. Dr. Schachter is in Suffern, New York. Michael Schachter has written a couple books. I've heard many interviews